Hi, I'm Catriona Starpins. Welcome to my studio. I love all things that sparkle, especially glass beads. And today we're going to be making our very own pair of Monika earrings. Comes in 3 different colorways. Let's see what's on the bead mat and get started. Okay, these are the tools and supplies that you'll need to make your earrings. The first thing we have is this ring. It is a metal ring and it's 15 millimeters across and it's a silver one. You can get them from Cranberry in packs like this, 5 in a pack. Buy 2 packs, you get 5 earrings. Then we also have an earring finding. This particular finding is what's called a hidden loop, and it's because the little loop here is just hidden behind. So that's a hidden loop earring hook. I'm going to use one of those. You can get those as well. They come 2 pairs in a pack. Now the beads that we're using today are 2 different size 11 Delica beads. This colour here that I've chosen is colour DB164, opaque turquoise blue AB. Then this one here, I've chosen a darker colour to contrast with a silver lining, add a bit of sparkle. This is DB2191. It's the Duracoat silver lined dyed navy. Okay, then this one here is a size 11 seed bead. And you could use any brand seed bead. You could use Matsuno, you could use Toho. Today I am using, I think this is a Miyuki colour. This is the transparent matte light blue AB, and I've had this for so long. It's in a triangle tube. I don't think they cost the same anymore, but fabulous colour. I can't do without this colour in my beadwork. And then this one here is actually a Czech Preciosa size 8 seed bead, and you can get these in 50-gram bulk packs from Cranberry for just $10. So they're a super bargain, gorgeous beads, really lovely uniform shape with good sized holes in them. Highly recommend the Czech seed bead. Okay, then we've got these cubes, and these have been in my stash for years. They look a bit like, I don't know the exact colour, but they look a little bit like a matte black AB. They are a Miyuki 4mm cube. Look at the colour on those. They are super delicious. So they're a matte finish, and I've picked out 14 of those because I'll need 14 for this one earring. Then the tools that you'll need are a beading needle. Today I'm using a short bead embroidery needle. I know we're not doing bead embroidery, I just prefer a short needle when I'm doing my beadwork. You can get a pack of 25 in a size 10 for roughly $10, so that's great value. That's the needle here. So I prefer a short needle because I like using a thimble, which takes me on to, I'm going to wear a thimble today, and this is my little finger protector, and I use this because I have quite a tight tension, and when I pull my thread it cuts into my finger. Just here you can see where the fire line's been rubbing on the leather. If you want to make one of these to protect a finger that's getting abused by your thread, I do have a YouTube video on how to make your very own one. This is a very well loved one, this one. I've had this for quite a few years now, as you can see. Might not be your pinky finger that you pull your thread on, it's getting a bit of thread burn somewhere else on your hand that you want to protect, so you can do that. You need a pair of scissors that you're comfortable using. I'm using a pair of fishing braid scissors here today. They're just my go-to scissors for my beading. I've got a threads up made by the Beadsmith. This is well loved, I've had this for years. You simply just press the button here to turn it on. And it creates heat to melt through the thread. So that's a fabulous tool. And I've got a pair of pointy nose pliers. These will come in handy when we're attaching our earring finding. Can't live without having a bead scoop on my mat. This is just really good for if you want to scoop up your beads and pour them back into their container. That works super well for that. We're not going to be able to bead without having some beading thread. This here is a 1G thread in a silvery colour. It doesn't say the colour on there actually. It might say it there in Japanese. who knows? I think it's a silver or a steel grey kind of colour. So this is going to blend in nicely with the little ring that we're beading around. So that's what I'm going to use today. And I'm going to start with a wingspan of thread. So I'm going to thread my needle and we'll get started. Just a little note on the colours here. The colours that will be up next to each other I've tried to make quite contrasting. You can see I've gone a lighter blue, then a darker blue, then a lighter blue, then a medium blue, then a darker rainbowy blue. So I just wanted there to be definition between the stripes on the earrings. You can see here I've used a red, then a light pink, then a dark red, then a lighter pink, then a fuchsia pink, then a lighter pink. So you can really see the definition between the colours. In this one here I've done the same. I've done a turquoise, then a purple, then a turquoise, then a purple, then a green, and that just really helps to define the difference between the beads and have a nice stripe in the arches of this design. Okay, the first thing we need to do is tie our tail thread around this ring, and I'm leaving about 6 to 8 inches in length there. I'm going to use that thread later to tie the little loop for the earring hook. So don't leave yourself with anything too short or you will need to tie in another thread later. And I'm just tying a double knot, right over left, right over left. You can do right over left, left over right if you prefer. There we go, just got a double knot there and that creates tension there on the ring. Okay, for this first row we're going to be doing a series of brick stitches around the frame here. For our first brick stitches, we're going to be picking up 2 beads, and this is so that we can hide the thread path. And when we've finished going right around the circle, we will pull the last bead a little bit more into place to join up with its friends. You'll see what I did there is I held the ring up against my finger so that the beads had nowhere to go, but just up against that frame. I don't want them to slip under. And then I'm going to go back up through that second bead. Now you can see that first bead's just misbehaving a little bit even when I pull it up tight. So what I'm going to do is just circle through these 2 beads again. I'm going to go down this bead here and then back up the second one like this. Make sure you don't get your thread tangled when you do that. And when I pull that tight, you'll see it's now sitting, well, if it focuses, you'll see that's now sitting tight up against the frame there, really nicely. Okay, so now we're going to be brick stitching with just 1 bead each stitch. I'm going under the frame, I've picked up a bead, I'm going under the frame. I'm holding the frame against my finger so the bead can just sit in position, and then I'm going to go the opposite direction back through the next bead. And that's it, that's 1 brick stitch complete. So the first part of the stitch is picking up 1 bead, going under the frame. Second part of the stitch is coming back through the bead in the opposite direction. And you can see it's creating these little thread bridges between each of the beads here, and these are what we're going to bead off in future rows. But for now, that's looking really nice. Make sure the beads are sitting up nice and tight next to the frame and sort of cinch it in, pinch it in with your fingers and just pull it up tight. And we continue this first row in the same way all the way around. When you get to the end of the row and there's no space to put any more beads, you can just snug the beads around, just ease them around the ring so that the last two beads sit up nice and close. And then to join those two last beads together, we're just going to circle through those. Once more again, I've gone down the one from the very beginning and back up the one from the end, and when I pull that up tight, it just brings them together so that there's beads evenly all the way around. Now what we're going to do is alternate. We're going to be adding 11 of the darker blue bead and 10 of the lighter blue bead. I'm going to alternate those all the way around. When I'm heading back the other direction for the next row, make sure you do pick up 2 seed beads to start. I've got the darker and the lighter, and I'm stepping, this is the first thread bridge from where I am. I'm going to step into the second thread bridge, like that. Come back up through that second bead. Pull that up. Now you can see they're not sitting perfectly, so to fix that I go down the first bead and back up the second, and then just eased the tension there a bit until they sit nice and perfect on the edge. And you can see there's no thread paths visible, but they're behaving really nicely now. Okay, so now I carry on for the rest of the row, just picking up 1 bead at a time, and I'm just working into these thread bridges here between the beads. And it's exactly the same as the brick stitches we did before, only instead of going around the frame, I'm going through the thread bridge and then back up through the bead. So pick up a bead, go through the thread bridge and then back up through the bead. Now sometimes you'll find that the next thread bridge seems like it's a little bit too far away. It's okay to go twice through the one you've already been through if it's closer. So I can go through that same thread bridge I just used before, this next one, and back up through that bead. You can see it still sits at the edge there just as nicely, like that. And I just keep adding them on in the same way, just making sure that I am alternating my colours for this row. So I should have my 11 beads now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, 11 darker beads and 10 lighter ones in between. Now what you can do is just make sure that your beads are evenly spaced, you can sort of press on them to just flatten them out, and if you see any gaps between any that you don't like, you can sort of close that gap by just pressing on it a little bit. One of those gaps is from that previous row. There we go. Lovely. Alright, now my next row is just the darker size 11 Delica. So I'm going to pick up 2 for my first one. Go to not the first thread bridge, but the second one. Go under that. Come back up the second seed bead. Now they're not sitting quite right yet, so I go back down the first and back up the second, and then we just sort of guide them to sit nicely, pull that tight, and look at that, sitting beautifully. Okay, that tail thread out the way, and we're going to carry on. Okay, that's the next row done. Now I'm going to do a row with these matte size 11 transparent light blue AB. Starting my first stitch with 2, going through the second thread bridge, up through the second bead, down through the first bead, up through the second bead. And you can see I place the beads in my fingers to sort of pull them tight and make sure they're nice and flat up next to those Delica beads. And I carry on in the same way I was before, only this time I'm using a size 11 seed bead. And this is where we've gone to a bigger size bead. This is where you'll find that sometimes the thread bridge is not quite in the right spot for where you want it to be, so you might find you either need to go through the next one or you need to go through the one that you've already just used for the past bead. As long as you're going under one of them near that bead, it will sit nicely. And you can see, you just make sure they're snug up next to that, and make sure you're keeping it nice and flat. You can pinch it with between your fingers to make it nice and flat. Okay, that's the next row. Now I'm going to do a row with the size 8 French blue Czech seed beads. Remember, when you're doing your first stitch, pick up 2, go through the second thread bridge, up through the second bead, down through the first bead, and up through the second one again. There we go, you can see that's pulled into position nice and tight. Looks great. If you find that your tension is a bit wobbly here, I recommend going down into like two rows below, turn around, and by doing just that one more little thread path there, just secures your work a little bit more and makes it a bit stronger. So if you've got a really loose tension and you're finding it hard to pull that in, that's a neat little trick for you. Okay, now I'm going to continue adding these all the way along. I'm actually going to flip so that I'm working towards myself, just a little bit easier on camera. Okay, so that's row. I'm finding that they're sitting just a little bit wonky there, so I can just space them out a little bit by using my fingers to push the beads along. Space them out nicely. There we go. And they're a little bit loose, those two on the end, so I'm going to use that same trick we did up the other end and just come down this one and back up the next, just so that I can get a better tension on that last bead there. So now I'm going to do a row with these cubes just here. First one, pick up the 2, second thread bridge, come back up the second, back down the first, back up the second. Okay, they're sitting really nicely. Now we carry on with the next. Okay, again, I can just use my thumb to move those beads around a bit that perhaps are more space than others, like that. And this bead on the end here is perhaps a little bit more wobbly than I'd like, so I'm going to do that same pass down into the row below, just to give it a slightly bit more tension on it. Okay, looking good. Now we're going to add some little picots with our size 8 Czech glass seed beads. And we're going to do that by picking up 3 beads. I'm exiting through this first one here, and I'm going to go down into the second. Then I'm going to step back up into the first brick and the first of those size 8s. I'm going to skip this middle size 8 and go down the next brick and the next the next size 8 and the next brick. And when you pull that up, it just makes the little picot sit a little bit more perky and pointed out. So I'll show you that again. Picking up 3 of the size 8s, going down the next, so I'm coming out this one, I'm going to go down the next one. Then I'm going to come up again, going through the cube and the size 8. Skip that middle one, go down size 8 and then the cube, and as I pull that up, oops, it's getting stuck on the bead, go under the bead. Pull that up and you can see it's just pulled that into shape a bit nicer. Okay, now we're going to add the next one, and we're just going to repeat that all the way along. Down, coming up, and down again. It also means each of these little picots has got a couple of thread paths through it, so they're a little bit more secure. And down, up, missed going through the 8, go through the 8, and then back down the 8 and the cube. And you just need to make sure that when you come back down, you just pull that thread up so that it goes a bit taut. You can see the thread was just getting stuck on that bead then, so I guided it around the bead and then pulled it up. 2 more picots to go. 1, and last one. Now I'm going to come down a few beads as I'm coming down through that 8 and that cube. Just come into the earring a little bit further, and I'm going to knot off my thread in there. So I'm just going to do a little half hitch, getting a little bit of thread, doing a half hitch, pull that knot down into one of the beads. My needle just came unthreaded. Just weave that through another couple of beads so that it doesn't come undone. And then I'm just going to use my thread burner to melt off that thread right up next to the glass bead, like that, so you just can't see it. Now we're going to use this thread and add a little loop for our earring hook. Alright, so now we're going to add a little loop to add our earring finding, and I've woven through the beads up and down to make my way through, so I'm exiting the 4th bead from here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, that's the 4th bead, and I'm going to use the same as that base row in Delica beads, size 11 Delicas. I'm picking up 7 of them off the bead mat, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to pull those down. And then I'm going to count on this side of the earring, 1, 2, 3 seed beads come through this one, the 4th. So that way the loop is in the middle of the earring, so when we attach it, it's going to hang straight. Now if you go through the frame, flip it over, go back up that seed bead from the other side, pushing up and going through that loop at the top there again, and I like to go through there 3, maybe 4 times just to secure the path of those little beads, and I'm trying not to pull it too tight. If I pull it too tight, it's going to sit funny, so I'm making sure I'm going under that frame each time and then back up into the beadwork. Like that. That's 3, that's probably enough, feels quite tight. And then I'm going to weave my way down towards the rest of the beads here and not off my thread. So I'm just weaving my way down. Do a little skip into that one. Do a half hitch knot. Pull through another one. Do a half hitch knot, and the knots, as you pull through the beads, the knots get hidden in amongst the beads, so you're not going to see them. You don't need to worry about the knots, and then just weave through a few more beads just to hide that tail end, and then I can burn this thread off as well. I get my thread burner and I'll make it so you can see that really clearly. Just melt that off like that. There we go. Now we've got our little hook to attach, and I'm going to use my pointy nose pliers, or chain nose pliers as they're known in the jewelry industry. I'm just going to open the ring a little bit and have a look which side of the earring you like the best. I think that's the side that's the best. That's going to be my front. Toss it into the loop like that, and then we need to close that loop again like this. There's a little bit of a gap there too, so I'm just going to press my pliers and just push that in so it's nice and secure. And there we go. There is a Monika earring. If you are one of these people who find it hard to select colours and you don't have any of these beads in your stash already, I do have 3 kit colour choices for this earring on my website, and you're more than welcome to head there. It's catriona.starpins.com and click on the tab for kits, and you will find these. They are called the Monika earrings. This is the turquoise and purple colourway. Soft, beautiful tones, cool tones. Here's a warm tone, pink and red. Very me. These are the ones that I will probably wear the most. And another cool tone, these are the blue tones. Thanks for coming along today to make your very own pair of Monika earrings. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the like button below. Also, if you have any questions or comments, I'd love for you to leave them in the comments below. Thanks again for watching and enjoy your beading. Bye!